Welcome to Death Holler, the place of haunted hearts and haunted homes. We welcome you to Death Manor, the home that boasts the most ghosts. Come on in. We've been expecting you. Take a look around. You might see someone that you recognize. Do you hear those voices? That's just the Reverend Dr. Death and LLareyna. They're so happy to see you. Sit back and relax. Make yourself at home. Your new home. And remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is always advised. We hope you enjoy the show.
So it's been a while, Lareyna. What's going on?
A whole lot of frickin' nothing, really. I have I have to confess. So we haven't been able to record for a minute because the internet has been very wonky in this room. Just this room. It's haunted, you know? It's a possessed studio.
It's been proven on many of our podcasts that you've got the otherworldly issues going on in that place. So
we do. But the problem this time was actually me. Maybe not me so much, definitely my computer, which ties in with one of the movies we watched today. Just a little bit, just for a split second. We'll go over that. But, okay, so we couldn't get the internet to work, specifically on my computer. And it's not an issue with my hubby because they record in studio. So there's no communicating across the states. They're just in here. They're recording. It's no big deal. It's streaming. Great. But you and I will have issues if the internet is not perfect, or at least mostly perfect.
Yeah.
So It turns out that the issue wasn't our internet. It was my computer.
Oh, wow.
It is not accepting the, I think it has gone full lesbian. It's not accepting the male end of the Ethernet cable. And it just kind of sits in there and floats around, you know, like a hot dog down a hallway. So that was the majority of our issues. We were like, we cannot figure out. It feels like our internet's fine. I am now recording from my husband's computer because his will accept the male end, you know, like God intended. Actually, that's not how God intended. This is, whoa. What are we talking about? What?
What? Huh? Where are we? What just happened?
Which sucks because I've actually fucked up I did not like my audio at all on Star Wars From the Back to Tank. You guys said it didn't sound too terrible, you know, and I appreciate that. But I was like, I never even sent my audio. Mike just ended up using what he had, and I feel pretty sucky about that.
Listen, it was still fine. I mean, I don't know if you're like me, I've listened to a ton of audio from quote unquote professional, you know, podcasters and YouTubers, and it sounds like they're recording on an iPhone in a very large bathroom in an airport. I mean, that's what it sounds like, you know, so.
Which can be pretty decent audio. And hey, if the content's good, you know, you're just like, I can get past this probably. But other than that, scary wise here in the holler, the hubs and I have been watching, the hubby has been watching and I have been witnessing. Let's call it what it is. He watches these scary shorts. I want to say they're on Netflix or YouTube. Not Netflix, YouTube, for sure YouTube.
He recommended those to me. I need to get to watching those, yeah.
And some of them are really good and some of them are really horrible. And when I say really horrible, not even Attack of the Bees worthy horrible, in my opinion. I don't really get an expert opinion. I just get an opinion. So, and those have been really good. A lot of zombie ones, a lot of, I think these kind of tie in together, but post-apocalyptic zombies, and, you know, those can really kind of tie into each other.
They're easy to do on a low budget. It's the thing about those movies.
Oh, definitely. So, and those have been pretty good. So I, like I said, just witnessing those, I get a little bit of enjoyment out of them. And that's it. That's all I've been doing.
Well, I just literally yesterday watched 2 different horror films. Well, technically they're in that vein. The Northman by Robert Eggers.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't call it a horror film. It has horror elements.
Supernatural, maybe.
Yeah, it's an Viking epic is what it is. It's literally like, I mean, you're listening to like a Viking scald or something, like lay down this vengeance tale of this king who was denied his throne or something, or to that effect. So I mean, that's what you're watching, but the supernatural element is weaved into the movie as if it's real. Like there's no, like there's I mean, they treat the magic as if it's a real thing, like the prophecies, all that stuff. Like there's no element of it that's just like, oh, well, that's just, you know, horse shit, and this guy's just, you know, going around doing his, you know, everyday thing. I mean, they weave it all in there. I mean, there's even, you know, there's even a couple scenes with Valkyries in the movie. I'll just put it that way. So, I mean, there's, it's, you know, definitely got that element to it. And it's the violence in it is pretty well done. I got to give Eggers credit. I mean, I told you before we came on this that he had this statement he made while he was doing the red carpet for this, you know, movie, where he said that he's embarrassed by the witch now, or the Vivitch as we called it, which aggravates me, and I know it pisses you off to a certain extent.
No, yeah.
Because it's one of those things where it's one of his first movies, and he's kind of just going back and saying, well, I've grown since then, that, you know, and that sort of thing. But he definitely shows an improvement. I got to give him, you know, despite the fact that I still don't like that statement, because you got to start somewhere, and I feel like that movie is still great. He definitely shows an improvement in all the aspects of his filmmaking in The Northman. I mean, the camera, the way he utilizes it, the scenes, like just the way he films is, and the atmosphere and the lighting, it's all better in this movie. So he's definitely progressed since the Vivitch.
Well, okay, then I'll allow him to say he's embarrassed, but why not just say I've grown, I've learned? Because
yes, exactly, that's what he should say, instead of saying, oh, well, that's a trash movie, which, I mean, that's not exactly what he said, but that's basically what he's implying.
Yeah,
and
it's how you took it movie. Too. It's how I took it, and I was like, sir, that's not fair. You have now a few years of experience under your belt. You have a way bigger budget for The Northman. We'll go over that.
And you have and you've got an actress in Anya Taylor-Joy who is grown in her own abilities. Yeah. And not only that, but you have now got Willem Dafoe as one of your regulars. Like, he's just like we talked about with, you know, some of our previous directors that we discussed, how they kind of collect their favorite actors they've worked with. Willem Dafoe is now in Robert Eggers' lineup. Like, he's been in several of his movies at this point.
Little Anya Taylor-Joy, ATJ as we shall call her. She has a job for life with Eggers.
She's actually going to be in his next film, which I think is a remaking of Nosferatu, which is going to be amazing. So, but yeah, it's The Norseman. It's worth watching for anybody. I mean, even if you just don't, the Viking thing doesn't really do it for you, but you're kind of into the horror elements and some of the, I mean, just the recreation of the time period. Like, he does such a great job at that stuff. I mean, like, that was one of the big things with Vivitch. He, you know, went so much into the minor details of that time period, and he does that again with this one, you know, around 900 AD, give or take. So
yeah. I'm going to give a shout out to one of our favorite podcasts that we listen to. Well, it's apparently I've lost my ability to word. A Critique Revolve, which is on Rain Man Digital, one of the networks where, you know, we've learned a lot from them on how to podcast, and still have light years to go before we become at their level. But they did a review of The Northman, and my feelings were like a tide. They were ebbing and flowing. Okay, I was like, yes, I want to see this movie. Sounds like a snooze fest. Yes, I want to see this movie. Ooh, am I gonna like that? And then you and I discussed, I said, hey, you watch this movie and you use what you and my husband have discussed about me in films and determine, would this be a movie I would watch? And you said that you thought that there was enough supernatural and action that I would stay interested.
It's told in chapters. So even if you start to get kind of bored with the chapter you're in, wait.
Okay.
Because it's one of those things where there's one chapter where it's just showing him and Anya Taylor-Joy going into slavery in the film. That's kind of, you know, an aspect of it. And that's probably the only part of the movie that I would say is on the slower side, even though they do show the brutality of the time period.
Yeah.
But then, like, if you wait, like, the very next chapter is The Nightblade Feeds, which that title itself, you know. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. You know, what am I looking at now? So, but that it's kind of I mean, it's a long movie, but I was going to tell you, it's not just a meal, it's a feast. Like when you're watching it, it's like it needs every bit of this runtime to be able to do what it does. I mean, to get the story out. I've heard complaints about the Batman, which I've also watched. I don't know if we brought this up on the podcast, but the Batman does kind of linger in its last act. I wouldn't say that about the Northman at all. Like you need you need every bit of this movie for it to be what it is.
Yeah, and I'm hearing people saying that they have left it open for possibility at least one more movie, and that they want it. Like they're like we almost need it at this point.
I mean, the way that they end the movie, it would go in a different direction for sure, but they could go and I mean, it does lend itself to a sequel to an extent.
So I'm actually, so having heard what I heard through, you tell me movies are good all the time and I'm like, we'll see. But having heard multiple different people talking about it, I'm definitely interested in seeing it. Even I can make it through long movies, despite what a lot of viewers, probably your listeners, think of me. So,
the other movie that I've been wanting to see that I finally just broke down and bought because it was on theater at home on I think Vudu was You Won't Be Alone. It's kind of in the same vein as The Vivitch, or at least that's the way it was being sold, and like the Rotten Tomatoes scores like through the roof for it. So I wanted to kind of see what that was about. I wouldn't list this as a horror movie either, even though it does have horror elements. I mean, it's set in a certain time period in Macedonia, like the rural outskirts. It's like, it's the basic gist of the movie is that an evil spirit / hag that lives in the forest, and they call her the wolf eateress or the wolf eater or something like that. She basically pays a visit to a woman at the beginning of the movie and then gets promised a child upon it becoming a maiden or 16 years old, basically, because it was either that or she eats the child, and that's what the mother does to kind of forestall the inevitable, as it were. And then the rest of the movie follows the child once she's kind of grown up, and she kind of goes under the witch's care or the hag's care for a while. And it's interesting in the sense that it's more of a movie about somebody trying to learn how to be a human being than it is in a horror movie, if you want to think of it that way. I mean, it's more of it's kind of a drama, if it is the way I would describe it, because you got this person who's literally been locked up their entire life to try to save them, quote unquote, which might have connotations for COVID if you want to go that route, but whatever. And they don't know how to function, and they basically get another lease at life using this evil magic that the hag has, and it's like them trying to figure out what a human being is and why we treat each other that way. And it's kind of interesting from that perspective, seeing somebody who's not technically, of the mix, trying to figure out, well, this is how women are treated, this is how men are treated, these are how children are treated, this is the society as it functions. That's kind of the movie you're getting out of it. But of course, it does have like this burnt hag who eats the guts of whatever creature she's going to turn into, including humans. And I don't know. I mean, it's got those elements, but it's not real. I wouldn't call it a horror movie. And another reason you wouldn't like it for sure is that it's completely subtitled. There's not a minute of it that's not. And like I said, this one has no action in it. I mean, other than the few scenes of where somebody dies, randomly, but it's literally like somebody looking in from the outside trying to figure out why humans act the way we do. It
actually sounds very interesting, shockingly, I know. But if you guys recall, I watched The Vivitch and there was no action in that. If anything, that movie was a slow burn. But I think visually and what you imagine in your mind was enough to create enough excitement for me to keep going in that film. Yeah. We rated it pretty decently. And this sounds Vivitchy in a sense.
It is to an extent, but it doesn't build up horror. It's more like it's literally you're sitting there just realizing how shitty people can be to each other.
Yeah.
But then at the same time learning the positives of humanity through the eyes of this girl who's basically been locked up all of her life. That's to give away the first few minutes of the movie. Her mother takes her to supposedly a sacred cave that the hag can't enter, and like leaves her there literally and comes in daily just to feed her and will not let her out of it for the first 16 years of her life. So she is completely unsocialized, has no idea how to even function, and she has no voice. I think it doesn't really say in the movie, or if it does, I missed it. I think when the witch does what she does at the beginning of the movie to mark the child, she keeps it damages the kid's vocal cords. Like she can't speak. So she's
like Ursula. Mute. She stole her voice. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And she's basically mute, and she has no idea about anything outside of the cave that she spent all of her life in, literally.
Okay. You give your unofficial score of it, and I will give my unofficial thought score of it.
I rated it a 4 on Vudu.
Wow.
Like it's a good movie for what it is. I mean, it's an interesting movie, but it's not like, it's not one that I would say is a perfect, like, I'll go back and watch this. The Northman, 5 out of 5. Watch it as soon as you can, and buy whatever Blu-ray or, HD, 4K version comes out for it.
What are those? No one in this house has seen a DVD or anything, and at least a decade. I've recently got
back into collecting physical media because I don't trust any of these streaming services not to shit all over us. So
except for Shudder. Shudder, we're still looking for sponsors. We have one more slot available for you if you want to sponsor us. Okay, well, I'm not going to unofficially score The Northman. I really want to watch that. So,
what do you unofficially thought score this the You Won't Be Alone that I was discussing?
Snooze fest. Absolute snooze fest. I would like to witness it. So I'm going to tell my husband about it. He's going to want to watch it. He's probably going to love it. It sounds right up his alley. And then I will, looking up from the book that I'm currently reading, will witness it. Maybe.
There you go. And you'll miss over like a ton of it because you'll be sitting there hearing whatever. I guess it's a Greek or whatever, Italian, whatever they're speaking, and you'll be like, and then you'll see like random snippets of whatever they're saying in subtitles.
Yeah, but I don't speak Spanish.
I was going to discuss though before we answer the door, because I think there's somebody here. I wanted to ask you a quick question. Given today's topic, do you think they should bring back the schlocky scare tactics of the old Castle films back to movie theaters, where they like swing like a shitty skeleton across the theater at the time that a skeleton appears on screen, or have you wear goofy ass glasses to see ghosts and all this that sort of thing?
It's hard to say because I'll talk about it obviously when we review the film, but you have this film and then you have 13 Ghosts. And wasn't there something similar in that film? I could be wrong.
The glasses in that one, yes. Because just like in the remake, they also had glasses in the old one, and supposedly whenever the ghost came on screen, put your glasses on, yes. And you'll see them in front of you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to answer that yet. We need to answer this after reviewing.
Okay. Well, I hear someone at the door, so hit the music.
We'll let them in.
Esteemed guest, I don't know if my evil incarnate co-host invited you all here to pay witness to my presumed death this evening, but I can assure you won't be me that dies before the sun rises. Oh, but where are my manners? I am your host, the Reverend Dr. Death, and joining me as always is the aforementioned serial killer, LLareyna. How are you, LLareyna? Planning on another drowning or some poison this time around?
No, LLareyna is not up to that because, it just seems that things are just happening all around, and I did not invite the guest. I thought it was you, but maybe it was my haunted computer, my haunted lesbian computer.
I think your haunted lesbian computer is definitely what did this, because these are none of the people I had on the list.
I've never seen these people, and I don't know who they are.
If you hadn't guessed, this episode we're visiting our good friends in the house on Haunted Hill. I'm told that if we survive the night, we will receive a very nice sum of money, somewhere between $10K and a cool million, depending upon which source you listen to. Nothing to it, right? Just survive the night in an old mansion and / insane asylum until morning, and we're rolling the dough.
A fake haunted mansion.
But what was that sound just beneath us? Why are the caretakers so adamant to be gone from this place after dark? Well, this is the mystery we're about to unravel in our discussion of both the 1959 William Castle produced original and the 1999 Dark Castle remake of House on Haunted Hill. First, some podcast business. If you're enjoying this podcast, we would appreciate it if you would take the time to like, comment, subscribe on whatever podcast platform you prefer. It helps us get more visibility on podcast listings and helps us grow. We appreciate everyone who listens and hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah, and shout out to Denmark.
Next.
We're like on the charts in Denmark. Did you notice
Finally. That? No, I didn't see that.
Okay, so before it was Slovakia, right? Or wait, was it?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Okay, and then now we're on the charts in Denmark. We were in the top 100 for horror film reviews, and I'm like, how? Can we get at least in the top 1 million in like Apple Podcasts or Spotify? Can we get in America? In America. Look at, not that we do not appreciate you folks, okay? Thank you so much.
I definitely appreciate another country that can barely understand my accent. So there you go. That's great.
Yeah, that's true. They probably think I have some funky accent too. Like, ugh. That ginger. Well, they'll know you're a ginger.
Well,
they do now.
They do now. They won't watch
but they don't even know you're a honky. They just know like we sound different.
Oh, geez. Yeah, living up in these hill jacks.
The haunted hills.
The haunted hills.
Okay, I'll stop. I'll see myself out.
Well, before we get into the discussion about the Haunted Hill, no, that's not the movie we're talking about, the House on Haunted Hill. I'm doing what you did the last time.
It's going to happen the whole podcast. I just know it.
It is. And there's a reason for that. We're going to discuss that too. Anyways, how about an attack of the bees?
Oh, I suppose.
What is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Open my eyes!
I can't wait for that new movie.
I was just going to say that.
I cannot wait for this movie with Nicolas Cage playing himself. It's Nick Cage Inception, and I'm here for it all day. Anyways, the Attack of the Bees we're discussing is Deep House, the 2021 film directed by Alexandra Bustillo and Julian Maury. Principal players, we have Camille Rao, who plays Tina, the enthusiastic diver / smart one in the movie. She's also in real life a French model. I say smart one because she's got the good sense to get out of a fucking hellhole haunted house whenever she sees it. Unlike her, co-actor in this film, James Jagger. Yes, that is Mick Jagger's son, playing Ben, the diver / tech enthusiast and / idiot in this movie. He's been in a couple of movies, actually, Knife's Edge and Sound of Violence. Kind of strange. And it's weird, too, because I didn't catch that he was Mick Jagger's son watching this, so he apparently doesn't look enough like his dad, which I guess is a good thing, depending upon how you feel about Mick Jagger. But
yeah. I'm going to look at a picture of him now, though, to kind of do my own. James Jagger. Okay, anyways.
Also in the movie is Eric Savin, who plays Pierre. He's the antagonist that kind of sets everything in motion. We have Carolina Massey playing Sarah Montanak. I don't know. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. I'm not going to pronounce this right. So, creepy ghost girl Alexis Servais playing Mr. Montanak, who's an undead cultist / serial killer. And finally, rounding out the sparse cast is Anne Claessens, who plays Madame Montanak, also an undead cultist.
Ooh.
And basically, the synopsis is, and this is basically the the gimmick with this movie is it's a haunted house, but it's underwater completely. It's like it was a house that was like buried at the bottom of this lake whenever they filled it in. But lured by the story of a perfectly preserved house at the bottom of a lake, 2 amateur divers investigate the remains of the structure, only to find more than they bargained for. The story, although sparse, is pretty neatly told as the couple, investigates the house. It's really sold on the setting, though, just kind of seeing this creepy, extremely well preserved house, and like as they're going through it, investigating and kind of finding more and more like weird, creepy things that the previous owners had in it, is kind of adds to the atmosphere, and you've got more of a sense of urgency in this movie, because they set out at the beginning of the movie that they do have like just a limited amount of time, on their like air canisters before they have to, leave. And that kind of gives more emphasis to, like whenever, the idiot, as I call him, Ben, keeps trying to it's like, well, let's just go back and investigate the basement, this creepy basement where there's like 2 perfectly preserved bodies just kind of chained and floating there. And and Tina's rightfully saying, it's like, we have limited air, let's get the fuck out of here, this is messed up. It's one of those situations.
Wait, how are they talking to each other? Is there like microphones? Are they able to, or are they writing to each other? What's going on?
They have like little headsets that they can communicate with each other with, and he's got like a little drone too, because kind of the thing of the movie is it's kind of told from, it's almost like it's done in a style not found, well, kind of like found footage, like it's like the drone is recording everything, and kind of what you're seeing in a lot of cases, what the drone is seeing.
Okay.
It's I like the element of it. I think they did a really good job, because there's never been a haunted house set in a setting like this. But it has 2 of my biggest pet peeves in movies in general, and I don't really, or at least in horror movies, and I don't like either one of these things they've included. At one point, or the drone found footage aspect is fine. But it does like all these movies where it gets to the point where, when they're really swiveling around and it's supposed to be like super crazy, instead of like, a movie like we just brought up, Robert Eggers and The Northman, he like lingers on the scene and kind of, and whenever the frenetic energy kind of kicks in, he does things with a camera that keeps it still enough to where you can tell what's going on, but moves it enough to where it gets like a sense of action, with just the camera movement. The thing I hate about found footage movies is they substitute out like the moving for just shaking the camera up a bunch, that it looks like there's a bunch of shit going on, and it just, I don't know, to me it makes me kind of queasy just trying to watch it.
Yeah.
It's like, stop this, I don't even know what's going on. So it's got a little bit of that going on. But the big thing I hate about this, and it's not in a whole lot of horror movies, but the thing that I seen it first in Night of the Demons, the 1980s version, and it kind of lingers on this day, is it has that, when you don't have ability to keep or a reason to keep your people inside of a certain location, or a really good one, you just throw up magical walls and they can't get out. So that's what this movie does. Whenever Tina has that idea to leave, and she finally convinces Ben to go along with her, when they go to leave, now there's suddenly walls surrounding every open window, door, and all that to get out of the place. Like there's no way for them to get out. And I hate that shit. Like all they had to do is just basically have a part of the house crumble and trap them inside, and that would have saved it. But no, it's, now there's a magical wall that popped up where the window was at. And I think it's late. It kind of takes me out of the movie. I'm like, you could have came up with some other thing to kind of, keep your protagonist, kind of in this bad situation. I don't know. What do you feel about those things?
I don't like magical walls. I think I would have been okay with like, I don't know, because you could still break a window and get yourself out, but like if a door is jammed, and they're underwater, so anything could cause a door, rusty, doors. Well,
they have that on the main door. Like there's a bunch of like growth and stuff that's like happening in front of the house to keep them from using the main door out of the house. So that's good. That's, that's well thought out.
I feel like that would work. If you wanted to go you're obviously going supernatural because it's a ghost. It's a haunted house under the water, but like a siren maybe. to kind of lure, maybe she could only lure the guy because the guys are the idiots that he's already an idiot in this film. Put a hot ghost siren, that's like keeping him there. He's entranced and he's like, no, I want to stay because I want to stay. And she's like, well, peace out then, brother. And she's kicking in a window to get herself to safety,
I got to say something going back to our cold open discussion. You won't be alone. It's just kind of because all the guys that die in the movie are literally that. It's just like they see like this naked chick like walking through the woods and they're like, oh, I'm gonna fuck that, and then of course they get killed by this hag that's like in the woods, and I'm like, that's how guys go out.
Tale as old as time, okay? and look to be fair, yes, I could totally see even my husband, any guy is going to go for that. You are easily distracted by boobs. It doesn't matter what they look like, small, big, hanging up to your neck, Women would see an animal and their toxic trait is thinking that, oh, they could go pet that animal, And if I go out trying to hug a 1,000-pound plus bear, then that's how I fucking go, okay? Don't judge.
But I agree with you as far as like keeping them inside the beast. They could have done like numerous other things. That I think that's such lazy filmmaking. Like whenever they say, well, you suddenly can't get out because there's the walls are impassable now for no apparent reason.
Yeah. Maybe the freaking woman kicks a window to try to escape, and maybe she gets caught trying to get out of the window, and she gets stuck there and dies, Yeah,
and they even have like a scene where this like really large fish like swims through there. It's kind of like it's their version of like the cat that suddenly appears off, from off frame and like give you the jump scare part of it.
Yeah.
They could have had like a predatory animal or something, or a fish underwater that was kind of like if they tried to leave, like it was going to, attack them as they left. I mean, that would have been reasonable, or at least, plausible.
Well, yeah. And we all know that the creepiest creatures are deep, deep in the waters. They are, the deeper you are, the uglier they are. So that would have worked really well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways they could have gone with that part of it, and I just, when I saw it, I'm like, oh great, and but other than that, I mean, I do really think that it's a fresh take on the haunted house genre just because of the setting, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a recommendation by Dawn, and I appreciate him kind of telling me about it, so because I'd heard a few things before that, but I was like, since he mentioned it, I went ahead and checked it out, and I was really impressed. I'm going to give it the Nick Cage rating of Prisoners in a Ghostland. That movie is not really good, but it's kind of like well known for its interesting visuals, and that's kind of what I feel like this movie's really got going for it, is just the different setting, and just like how they did like the visuals of the house underwater, and and that was really interesting.
Yeah, it sounds really good. As soon as I got the basic synopsis of what this film was, I'm like, this sounds actually really good. And being underwater, or even suffocating underwater, or being stuck underwater, is something that fucking terrifies me.
Well, it's the suffocation aspect. It's like a building anxiety on the back end, but then you got the fact that there are actual like ghosts, like, and they're not just like spiritual ghosts. They're like, corpse ghosts. Like if you want to think of them, that they're like spirits, but they've got, like almost like zombie form, not quite. And the fact that whenever the actors or the actor and actress are trying to get away from them, and you're underwater, so your movement is slow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that really adds to the tension of it, because, I mean, they can't just run away. I mean, anytime they go to move, it's just they can go into different places that a person wouldn't normally be able to go, like, way up to the ceiling or whatever, but that doesn't really help when the ghost can too. So,
yeah.
It's an interesting take on it.
Yeah. Interesting. Do we want to talk about another possible attack of the bees of a different type of haunted object?
Let's do it, because I mean we mentioned a recommendation, so let's see what this is about.
Hey, for everyone listening, this is a listener that wanted to give their own review of something that we toggled. Well, not we. There is no we in this. I was not going to watch this at all. No fucking way, you sickos. You know what? Let's just let the listener take it from here.
The movie that I am going to be reviewing today is something that the doctor didn't want showing up in his browser history. It's called Amneville Vibrator. Written and directed by Nathan Rumble. It is starring Corella Waring, Mallory Maneater, Emily Hilborn, Ashley Marie Short, Amanda Bell, Lauren Abbott, Brian Paparanda, Sadie Tate, and Steve Nolan. After a breakup, a woman buys a used vibrator from a garage sale that just so happens to be possessed by Satan. It's dumb, there's a good amount of gore, an excess of nudity, flying dildos with a murderous ventriloquist dummy named Spanky, and satanic rituals. A great, weird face-skinning scene where the puppet dons a man's face and then rides a woman's guts. There's not really a plot behind the Satan-possessed vibrator. If you love B-level horror porn and have 90 minutes to kill, then this one's right up your alley. It's fun, gory, and stupid. I couldn't find what kind of production budget the creator was working with, but you can tell that they were operating off of a shoestring. I mean, literally, there is a flying vibrator floating around with fish line. As far as the acting is concerned, I can say only one thing, that it's fucking laughable. At one point, I think I saw the actors reading the cue cards off camera. And as far as the talent is concerned, if Marilyn Manson groupies are your thing, and I'm not talking about the big titty Elvira wannabes, but more like they could have been doing meth on set in between takes, then you're really going to enjoy this little gem. On IMDb, its official rating is 5.9 stars, coming from 83 votes. Me, I am giving it 3 eggplants.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
That's the best. I absolutely love that.
You know, and I want to say that there is no way in hell that a woman would ever buy a used vibrator at a garage sale, but you know what? Being lonely will do some shit to you, I guess. Hold on. Yeah, I'm trying to find if there's any kind of budget. Hold on, let's see. Yeah, he's right. I mean, there's
if that had $1 million budget, I am going to be so pissed.
Oh, you know what? Apparently when I typed in budget car, automatically came in there, budget car. Like, no, that's not at all what I meant. 5 out of 10 stars. Let me see this. I mean, all they say is low budget, but they don't say how, like, what the budget was.
And apparently there is, like, you can get by skirting the IP for Amneville because it's a town and not necessarily, I mean, if you're just naming it something. So that's how these movies are being made like this. So if anybody out there who's listening has an idea for an Amneville movie, just go ahead and make it, because they made this one and, you know, it's out in the world now.
Oh my God, there is fucking the site I'm on right now, the gore that they are showing is fucking insane. It looks pretty good. So for a low budget film, I'll have to send you a screenshot of what I looked at, but oh my God. Yeah, so no one's giving a budget on it, which is, come on now. The people want to know.
I don't know of a good segue from that, so we're just going to move away from the vibrator and let it just leave it be.
We're just going to vibe along.
But thank you for that review. That was amazing. I love it.
You know, he said 3 eggplants, right? Was it 3 out of 5?
Eggplants, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's got to be 3 out of 5 because that would be the unofficial. Oh dear Lord! Hold on. I got a visitor at the door.
So before we get in discussion about the House on Haunted Hill, the reason that I mean, it's real easy to mix this and the Haunted Hill House up, and I want to get into the reason why I think that is. So William Castle definitely read the novel of Shirley Jack, The Haunting of Hill House, shortly after it was released, and he had the idea to do his version of the House on Haunted Hill. You know, he got that idea from that novel before the rights were ever bought to actually make The Haunting, you know, which is actually based book. So he read the book. And that's the reason you have the caretakers that want to get out before, it becomes dark. There's that aspect of it. There's people inside of a house that are kind of, that are a disparate group of people that are, there, for different reasons, and kind of matching the book. And so there's reasons, and there's even characters, I believe, that kind of similar. Like there's the character of Nora, who is in this, at least in the original, who is kind of like Nell. Like, I mean, she's kind of an analog for Nell. She's kind of the one who's being a puppet for whatever, like in The Haunting, it was, either her mind or, the ghost of the place that was kind of using her to her own benefits. In this, it's she's being gaslit by both of the, main, like the main characters, the Laurens as they were. So there's a lot of similarities. I think he just basically took The Haunting of Hill House and kind of ripped things out of it and made a movie before the rights got distributed to somebody else. What do you think about that, LLareyna?
Is no comment an option? Oh, there's our internet again. Okay, I lost you for just a second.
Okay.
I know I keep saying this, but I hope it'll be worth it. But I want to wait till like both have been reviewed.
Okay. So I'll go over the original by William Castle.
Yes.
So The House on Haunted Hill, 1959, directed by William Castle. Principal players are the late great Vincent Price, who played Frederick Lauren, who is either the protagonist or antagonist, depending upon, how you view him in the movie. He's a horror legend. I mean, there's not much you could say, about Vincent Price that, I mean, just here's a list of some of the ones that he was in, and a lot of these got remakes later. He was in the original House of Wax. He was in The Fly. He was in The Abominable Dr. Phibes. The Last Man on Earth, which got turned into The Omega Man, which got turned into I Am Legend, or I guess, is it I Am Legend or Legend? Or,
I Am Legend.
I guess I Am Legend with Will Smith, which, whatever, the slap heard around the world. He was Witchfinder General, Tales of Terror, Theater of Blood, From Whisper to a Scream. He was in several different things by Tim Burton. He was in Edward Scissorhands. He was the narrator for the little short that Tim Burton did called Vincent. And of course, he was the voice that you hear on Michael Jackson's Thriller. I mean, and that's iconic, because
wasn't Michael Jackson even not? Well, I guess he was known, but I don't think he was that big yet.
He on his own, he was not known. Like that was his breakout. I'm sure. Like, I mean, Thriller is and remains one of his biggest hits.
Yeah, but to get Vincent Price, I don't know. I don't know. I want to know what Vincent Price saw in that. If that was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this.
But you got to admit, I mean, that little rap that he does, like, whenever he's doing the incantation that brings about zombies, like,
yeah.
If Price wasn't doing that, it wouldn't be nowhere near as popular as it is today.
No, not at all. And the sound of his voice, the creepiness in it, the acting, you can see his face while he's just saying it. Like I've never actually seen a recording of him doing it. There's probably one that exists.
There's one where they had him, I think it's Johnny Carson. It was a talk show host who had him read it. And to his credit, it literally looks like he had it memorized completely, and like,
wow.
Because he didn't look like he was reading off a cue card. Once he got started, he just repeated all of it. It was.
But what did his face look like? Did he look like he was acting it while he was reading it?
He kind of had that, like he always did. Like his face was kind of drawn down, and like he, had real serious look. Like, to me, Vincent Price always looked like what Doctor Strange was meant to look like. He has this wizard-like look to his face.
Oh, yeah. And then his laugh.
Especially in his older years, he had that look to him, like this wizened old sorcerer or something, that sort of thing. And then, he always had the pencil-thin mustache. And Something that I've noticed though, with this movie that I've always kind of thought about, but like it was The House on Haunted Hill that really brought it out for me. He has really, I mean, like I was sitting there wondering when I was watching, I was like, was Vincent Price, I mean, there was, I'm sure there was rumors he was gay, but like, I mean, he gave me the vibe that he, there's some scenes he was like, he could really push the masculine side of things. Like he was kind of, he was like really, like forceful and really intent with some of his delivery. And then there was other times where he was almost catty, that lit. You still there?
Yeah. Okay. I lost you for a second.
Okay.
It went paused.
So what I was going is that like whenever I was watching the House on Haunted Hill, the original, there's kind of a duality to Vincent Price, like kind of his like he has like a real masculine menace at times, and then at other times he's got more of a catty nature to him. And I kind of looked it up just to kind of see, because it was kind of made me curious, and it actually his daughter revealed that he was bisexual, so that kind of fits like that he would have been that way, because he definitely was able to deliver both sides. And I mean, it kind of depends on what movie you've seen by him, but I mean, especially in some of the Edgar Allan Poe like stories that he's done or whatever, he's kind of got more that that sinister but like almost a feminine vibe to him in certain scenes. So it's kind of interesting. We have Carol Omar in this film playing Annabelle Lauren, who is the antagonist or tragic heroine, depending upon how you view her in the movie. She was in the movie Spectre of Edgar Allan Poe, and in Spider Baby, which we will be covering at some point during the slasher season, because I kind of consider it like a lead into the slasher movies, but kind of interesting that she was in that. We have Richard Long, who is playing Lance Schroeder, who is a test pilot / bumbling idiot that gets trapped every few minutes in a bunch of secret rooms.
Ooh, got it. Hey, you have to have that though, because how else are they going to advertise what the house is capable of?
Oh, it's so dumb. Like I don't remember. I don't know when Scooby-Doo started up, but I was honestly considering whenever I was watching this, I was like, did they base Scooby-Doo off the House on Haunted Hill? Because he literally acts like Shaggy in the sense that every time something opens up, he's like trapped behind a wall and kind of like, out of commission for like long stretches of the movie.
No, sir. Okay. Oh, actually, no. I believe you are right. So this is 1959.
Yes.
Scooby-Doo first came to light in 1969, which are we surprised?
No, not at all. So, yeah, I really feel like this movie might have like been part of the inspiration for who the original writers were for Scooby-Doo. I don't know. I'll have to do some research on that, but it just kind of gives me after seeing some of this nonsense in this movie.
I'm going to jump ahead real quick, and I know I shouldn't, but I have to. And we can discuss it more if we want to when the time comes. But you're saying Scooby-Doo, and I'm really hoping it's just jogging something in your head right now when you go to the 1999 film. And there is a scene that is legit. They have Scooby-Doo music and everything. It's not the actual Scooby-Doo song, but they are, it's I don't want to say the character's name, but Price, basically going around looking through doors and stuff. And I'm like, what is this Scooby-Doo music? Scooby-Doo situation going on? What the hell? Like, it was horrible. But anyways.
It
wasn't horrible. It was actually hilarious.
This movie was like literally a live Scooby-Doo at times. Like this test pilot guy, he's always like, what does do? And he pulls like a lever and then he goes into a wall and like disappears. Like, I mean, he does that like 3 or 4 times in the movie. We have Carolyn Craig, who plays Nora Manning. She's the gaslit pawn. She's the nail of the movie. She's kind of just the one who is being utilized to do the killing for the Laurens, either, toward Vincent Price or Carol Omart's. We have Alan Marshall playing David Trent, co-conspirator and shady psychiatrist. we have Julie Mitchell playing Ruth Bridgers, which is basically a waste of space. She's just an older woman in the movie that does nothing. Like, I don't know what purpose she served. She stands around in scenes, kind of lends like this old, like, you know, I don't know, like creepy woman vibe to like the proceedings, and that's it. Like, she does nothing in the movie. She was in the Ten Commandments originally, though, the one with Charlton Heston, and this was her last film. So that's, I guess, you know, a little bit of trivia.
Wait, did she have a few films before that?
What's that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, did she have a few films before that? Or was this her one and only?
No, I'm just saying that she was in the Ten Commandments is like her big film.
Like,
all
okay.
These actors and actresses were in there's a time period. I got to throw this out there because I get it. This is going to be a big thing during 13 Ghosts. Like, trying to review these movies, like, you know, that were made in like the 50s and 60s. Every actor in those movies or actress, there's only like three genres that seem that movies seem to have back in those days. It was film noir with detective stories. It was war movies, or it was westerns. That's literally all you had for like years, apparently, because that's all these actors and actresses did for like a long time.
Yeah.
But no, this movie in particular was Julie Mitchell's last movie.
Okay.
We have Elijah Cook playing Watson Pritchard, who reminds me a lot of Tim Conway, like just the way the dude looks, like kind of his goofy, like, you know, just demeanor. Maybe a little bit of Don Knotts thrown in there. And he's annoying as fuck in this movie. Like, he is the most annoying doom prophet in a movie I've seen yet. You know, the person in the movie that's always like, "You're gonna die. You're gonna die. We're all gonna die in this house." Like, this guy's annoying as fuck. Like, I mean, just ridiculous. He was also in horror film related. He was in Messiah of Evil and Dead of Night, were the other two movies he was in. We have Howard Hoffman playing Jonas, the creepy caretaker. He was in a horror film called Macabre. And then we have Leona Anderson, who plays Mrs. Slides, who's the other creepy caretaker. And this was her last film. So they ended out on a weird one, in my opinion.
Yeah. Maybe they're like, this is bullshit. I'm fucking done.
So the synopsis that I came up with is a group of people are invited to a macabre party thrown by an eccentric millionaire for his wife in a house with a dark history, and it's presumed haunted. They are pawns in a game of cat and mouse between the millionaire and his wife as they try to kill one another. There is Scooby-Doo antics. You know, I wrote this before and I stand by it. A real skeleton marionette. The skeleton in this was a real one. And a vat of acid and a raving idiot round out the proceedings, with the raving idiot being Pritchard. Just my thoughts on this. This movie's interesting for Price's performance as he alternates between the flamboyant to the sinister, like I discussed previously. And his interactions with Carol Omar are the best in the movie, just because, you know, the two of them, you know, snipping and sniping at each other as they're trying to, like, you know, kill one another. Basically, they're in this loveless, you know, marriage where they're just trying out of it, I guess, in a time before prenups were a thing. But the rest of the movie is pretty forgettable camp. I mean, there's a reason MSK 3000, or the guys who used to be in that I think it's Riff Tracks now is what they go by. There's a reason why they chose this movie as like one of their biggest ones to make fun of. Because I mean, I watched this movie once just with their commentary in the background, and they're 100%. Like, there's stupid fucking shit throughout this movie. And it's like William Castle was more about the schlock. He wasn't really about the story. And I mean, there's just, like, the effects are not that good. Like, randomly, like, there's supposed to be like the Mrs. Sleade's character is supposed to be is supposed to be blind or something, and randomly she'll just be floating through a scene to scare, like, you know, the Carolyn Craig's character, and just, I don't know, it's laughable when you're watching it. I mean, it really is. I'm sure some people like it for the camp, but I don't really like this movie at all.
Is that your unofficial, like?
That's my unofficial before we get to the ratings. I really did not like this movie watching it. No.
I'm gonna.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Did you end up watching?
No, and I'm glad I didn't. And I'll tell you why. I've seen this movie before. I've seen this movie a few times before. So I'm going purely off of memory, and apparently nothing has changed, which is ironic because watching the other movie another time, things have changed. Now, I'm going to throw this in. From when I was watching this, again, with my grandma Beans, who used to love watching horror films, I'm going to say that for the time, it was pretty decent. Like, they didn't have a lot to work with back then, you know? And I was a little in watching this, and as a little in, it got me, you know, a little bit, the little schlockiness and stuff like that. And a lot of, tension building because, again, they didn't have a lot to work with, so they had to use the music, the scenery, they had to build up a lot. And that worked for me back then. Now, as an older person watching it, not going to go over very well, you know?
I'm going to counter that by saying if you just go back, at this point, it would probably been like at least a decade, maybe two, to the Universal horror movies, like the originals. They had a lot less to work with, and they did a lot better job.
True. So. Yes. True. So I guess having not watched it recently, I would like to start the reviews or it'll be kind of unofficial for me because I didn't give it another go round, but I would say, oh man, I'm going to go 2 out of 5.
If you give my rating right now, I can. It's whatever you want me to do.
Yeah.
Wait till the end.
Or do you want to wait to the end? We can do that.
I can go ahead right now. It's a 2 out of 5 for me.
Oh, okay.
I mean, for sure. I mean, like I said, I appreciate Price's performance in particular, but I mean, and him and Omar, but those are the only 2 things I really liked about it at all.
Yeah, and I didn't watch this, when I was previously watching these films, I have never watched anything with Vincent Price in it just because he was in it. I appreciate his work. I'm not a fangirl, though, where I'm just like, he's in it. Like, we got to watch it. And, you don't have to do shit. Do you want to watch it? Or is it on TV?
The thing about Price is he was in a lot of crappy movies, like later on in his profession, like, before Thriller was kind of a mini comeback for him. Like, if you watch some of the movies that he did, like, I want to say the late 70s, they're very diminishing quality when it comes to that. He was still decent in them himself. Like, his acting was still good, but like the movies were just complete and utter trash. I mean, not to say this one was great, but like, his Edgar Allan Poe movies that he did for a while, I think maybe with Roger Corman and, I might be misquoting on those, like, and then some of the other ones he did in the time period were excellent. That's the reason he's a household name. But I mean, like, he definitely had like very big dips in his, career.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that his popularity was there because in Hollywood, when you were a household name, clearly people wanted everything that you were in. But I really want to say, I mean, his popularity definitely grew after Thriller. And he was able to reach way more of an audience.
And a lot of people went back and they started rediscovering him that, maybe didn't give him a chance before. So, I mean, and he had the look and he had the sound. Like Vincent Price had a really interesting way of speaking that's why he was picked for all those Edgar Allan Poe movies. It was like, it was kind of thought out, kind of a slower pace to it, very meticulous whenever he went to speak. So, I mean, more theatrical in that nature.
Absolutely.
So the budget for the 1959 original was $200,000. They ended up making $2.5 million, so that was a real good turnaround for that movie.
Yeah.
And I do have some trivia about it if you want me to go over that.
Let's do it.
So Castle, and this is what the discussion about bringing the schlock back to the theaters. Castle was known to rig up a device in select theaters to send a fake skeleton flying over the crowd as they watched the movie. This emergo, as he called it, equipment was used for this stunt, and that was used for this stunt still exists, and it's used for special showings of the movie today.
That would be so fun. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, okay, I don't want to talk about in movies. If my kids got to experience that would be so great. My daughter would probably be thoroughly unimpressed. Like, oh my god, this is so stupid. Oh my god, emo angst, And my son would be absolutely terrified.
I think it. I mean, it would definitely. It's kind of like when people go back and they retro watch now, like that so bad it's good movie, The Room. I believe it's the name of. And they throw spoons at the screen every time the spoon is mentioned in it. Like that's just like the crowd emphasis would add to the movie more than just watching it. In that sense. This film's success was actually what spurred Alfred Hitchcock into making his own low-budget horror film, Psycho.
Okay.
He was on the fence about like venturing into movies. He saw what this did. He was like, well, if they can do that with what they made, then I can do better. So,
okay.
As previously mentioned, it's cheap. As we previously mentioned, I believe it was in Poltergeist. It's actually cheaper to use real skeletons as props than to make them. So the skeleton you see in the movie is a real one.
I don't fucking buy it. I mean, maybe back then it was a thing. I'll give them that. Back in the day, yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot of craft that went into making a skeleton look real for a movie. Nowadays, you can 3D print that shit.
Well, that's true, but it takes a lot of filament or resin to make that too, so it might still be pricey.
I don't buy it. I mean, you're using my skeleton in a horror film. I'm going to charge top dollar.
Your family is getting residuals for the rest of their lives.
100%.
The opening scare tactic of showing a black screen with screams and such, kind of rattling chains, screams, moans and cries. Is reportedly the inspiration for the scary sound records that they used during Halloween. Like when they saw how effective that was, people started printing out records with just those like sounds on them and like started selling them for Halloween parties.
Okay, 13 out of 10. So annoying for me. Like, it's fun. I get it because we do nothing but starting in September, we turn on Halloween radio on Pandora. Pandora, we are looking to not only be sponsored, but can you get our podcast on your freaking platform, please? Damn. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. And that will come on quite a bit, obviously, just, woo and spooky noises and stuff. And I fucking hate it. It really adds to the effect of fall, though. So I will give it that. But I don't like it. And when I was hearing it in the film, from the old films and even the new films, when they do that shit, I'm like, are you fucking for real right now?
Yeah, this one was real bad with it because it's just a literal black screen for like I want to say 2 or 3 minutes, and it's nothing but just those classics, like a female high-pitched scream or like woo, like that stuff for like minutes, and I'm just like, come on.
Well, I want to give it this. Is that in the 1959 film, and I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, at least, at minimum, what I will give it is the way that it's introduced and fades out is a lot smoother than in the newer film where it's there, it's loud, it's suddenly playing, and then it's like somebody hit stop on the record player or on the fucking tape player, and then it just ends.
That's true, because in the original one where they fade into like the floating heads first of Pritchard or whatever, and then to Vincent Price, it's Lauren, Frederick Lauren's character. It kind of like it's kind of like a prologue to the book, as it were. Like if you were reading a book, it's like a short little snip, and then like it leads into those floating heads. So. Yeah,
it's very tastefully done versus later films, which we will discuss.
Elvira was once stated as saying that this was her favorite film, surprisingly.
I mean, you know what? Do you, boo? She is the queen of Halloween, okay? And I'm not here to dispute that. She likes what she likes, and it's a pretty cool movie for its time. I mean, yes, there are other ones that you mentioned were done better, and I don't know. Maybe there's just something different about this one that she saw something that I was like, nope, this is it. This is the film.
To me, I want to say that I think what she saw in it, I can't speak for it. I mean, she was always about the camp aspects of a lot of movies whenever she was doing her show. So I think she appreciates the campier parts of it. And I would imagine, the Vincent Price of it, like how his
that's what I'm thinking
and all that.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's the Vincent Price of it. And, whatevs.
The $10K offered to each of the guests in the movie is the equivalent of $92,000 as of 2021. So there's inflation for you folks.
Yeah, I wonder what the $10K would be for 1999 when the other film was made, or the remake of it, and how they were getting $1 million in that film. So clearly,
they definitely grossly inflated it for that movie.
Yes, for sure. Well, $1 million, because you got to make it, I don't know, like 10,000 back in the day sounded like a lot. If they did 990,000, for this one, we'd be like, how about you just make it $1 million,
And you got to remember, back in the 50s, they were still kind of tied to the gold standard a little bit. So money actually meant something, back then. I mean, it was, I think, Nixon that completely took us away from the gold standard. So that was a few years removed. So, I mean, 10K would have been a big deal back in those days.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
This film is part of the public domain because the original copyright holder failed to renew their copyright.
Oh, shit.
So we talked about, mentioned in passing that it's unfortunate that, the copyright got missed on Romero's Night of the Living Dead. That's the reason that's copyright public domain. But this movie's just literally because they forgot to renew it.
Okay, so does it remain public domain forever, or can somebody come in and just copyright it?
It's public domain after that point forever. But the thing is, what's weird about it is WB does hold the official rights to the movie. So you can make it, you can use it, but WB somehow owns ownership of it. I don't know how that even works. But
yeah,
that's what
interesting. Maybe in terms of, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they own it, yes, you can remake it. But if you're going to play it anywhere for viewership or anything, they would get any kind of royalties or something like that?
I don't know, because it being public domain, I think they wouldn't, but it's just that you wouldn't be able to turn around and market it,
Yeah.
like that marketing is on their sites. I don't know how that works. It's really weird.
Okay. Yeah. Whatevs. You guys are weird. Movie film people, you guys are weird. I'm just going to throw that out there. They're asking for a curse to be placed upon them. You know that, right?
What's that?
They're asking for a curse to be placed upon them when they're not giving people their dues. Like, for instance, whoever made, let's go up to who made the film, directed by William Castle. Well, okay, we'll just throw William Castle, okay? His family and their royalties. I'm sure they're doing perfectly fine, but.
Well, William Castle was also behind Rosemary's Baby. So, I mean, there's the man. A thing or two about curses, regardless.
Yeah.
Dead, I do have to say, though, before I read the rest of this trivia, just something that come back to me now is the theme when the movie starts out, when they're rolling, up to the house on, Haunted Hill or whatever, and they're in the, falling behind the hearse and all that. Like, the theme music to this movie is not bad. Actually has a theme to it, and it's one of the better ones in that time period. So I got to give the composers credit for that. Like, it's an interesting theme as far as the music goes.
Yeah.
Alan Marshall suffered a heart attack on stage during a Mae West play and died after that evening later in his room. So
wow.
One of the actors in this movie.
Well, we know Mae West was quite the character, so I wonder if she triggered that heart attack.
I don't know. She was definitely a sex pot back in her days. So
she wasn't she either bi or lesbian? So she wasn't even interested in the men, but she was.
I'm speaking out of turn when it comes to that part of it, but I do know she was well known for being a very out there when a time when it wasn't normally a thing. So
yeah. She was a loose woman.
Vincent Price's dialogue, "It's close to midnight, Lance," was used as a lyric in Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Oh, nice.
Because, it starts out, "It's close to midnight."
Yeah.
Out that way. So the main image in the display advertising showed a woman hanging from a noose with the other end of the rope held aloft by a gigantic grinning skeleton. It's also included an image of Vincent Price holding a woman's decapitated head by the hair. In 1959, some newspapers judged the image too gruesome for publication, and exhibitors were encouraged to play it. The movie was so frightening that even the ads couldn't be shown. So
oh my God.
So, I mean, Castle was the absolute, I'll give him credit. I mean, even if he made shitty movies, he was the absolute master of marketing, because whenever they refused to, like, you know, print his advertising, he was like, this movie's so scary, they won't even print the advertising for it.
Oh my God. I appreciate that. Like, I have so much respect for that. And the amount of kids that were just like, oh, I'm going to go see this movie. Don't tell mom and dad, you know?
Yeah, it's just amazing that, I mean, turned into something like that. And I'm just like, good on you. That's perfect.
Well, this is before the 60s too. So this is the point where skirts were as high as to almost your knees, ladies. So ankles were on full display at this point, and there was just whores running around everywhere.
Well, I don't know. Speaking of that, but Carolyn Craig's only acting credits
Segue.
prior to this were for 2 short-lived TV shows. The names of the characters that she played, Lorna Harris and Lucy Manning, were combined to make her character's name Nora Manning.
Okay.
So that's so they just, you know, took her character's previous name.
That's pretty
And
funny.
she was actually in her first trimester of pregnancy when this filmed, and her son was born the following May. So she actually was pregnant during the filming of this.
Oh my God. Probably barely showing too. Freaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you can't tell at all, like during the actual movie.
Good Lord.
But that's all I have for the original. So if you wanna take over for the newer movie, you can have at it.